show. Always Irish show. Always Irish show. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. What are you doing? Don't do this to me, Harry! The Ohio State. It's Ohio State! What do you mean, the? It's a poison! I almost stroked out and died over it. I'm glad to be at the party. I'm mad we're this late. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship! That helps the defense without them even doing a damn thing! Doing a damn thing! The call-in line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. No Irish. No Irish. No Irish. No Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's right. Ooh, baby. There's always something to worry about in Notre Dame land. I'm telling you guys, I tried. I have sincerely tried to look at the bright side and not over worry about things and and try and go with the flow a little bit more. An injury in camp, you just got to deal with it. And what are you going to do? And Fravel says, I don't get why everybody's freaking out about the O-line. Maybe I'm alone in this. I think you might be. I think you might be alone in this. How are you not worried about the O-line? None of what they're trying to do they like. But can we get that clear? You are only seeing what you're seeing and getting these reports out of camp because they don't like what they see. They don't like it. They don't like what they got. They don't like no easy answers. There are no easy answers. And if this was Navy week one, it'd be different. And if this was Northern Illinois week one, it would be different. But the stress point on all this is what you have with perceived strength is. So you got to figure out an answer, and it's just got to be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be exceptional week one. It just has to be good enough. It just has to be good enough. And yeah, cue the don't do it to me, Harry, the whole thing. But I want to be, as we start today, I want to be crystal clear. You're only seeing what you're seeing at practice and seeing what's being reported because the staff does not like what they're seeing. That is what's going on here. Okay, so that's why you're seeing all the different guys in there. That's why you're seeing the number one line is mixed up with different guys. That only happens if you don't like what you got. That only happens if you don't like what you got. If you like what you got, you'd be grooving it to A&L. Everybody understand how this stuff goes. If you liked what you saw, you would be grooving that line all to be blending and gelling and getting all of the... You would be getting all of that building together and the camaraderie and all of the stuff. You're not getting any of that. So they don't like what they got. Yeah, I see my internet things being weird and I don't know why. I don't know why. Give me a break. It'll clear out and it'll cycle back. Having trouble with the phone login too. So maybe it's just one of my lucky day. So hang with me and it'll clear back out. Haven't had that problem this week. And then now all of a sudden I do. So I don't understand what's going on. All right, let's get through the introduction while we let that clear. As always, you can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps John out too. Notifications on that way you're alerted every time a new episode drops. I know you don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar Always Irish or at Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want it. You can get it. If you don't want to see my face, nobody blames you for that. Instagram, Facebook, Always Irish Inc. It's starting to bother me now. I see that little logo in the corner of my screen and I don't understand why. When I pay for the fastest internet available, I don't understand. But I'm really not in the mood for it today. to be honest with you. I'm just not in the mood. We got a bunch of callers. Maybe they want to talk O-line. Hang in there. We'll go to all of you guys. All you guys that are waiting, you're going to come up. Yeah, maybe the wrench has too much power. Can he fix the internet through that wrench magically somehow? Unbelievable. Also, Sports Illustrated. Yeah, you might want to Google that. Notre Dame, Sports Illustrated. Google it. Fighting Irish, Notre Dame, Sports Illustrated. We will come right up. We will come right up. But Pat, that does not answer why it's been like that for 2 years and I never had an issue till now. That's the part of this, Pat, that makes no sense. If the router was upstairs for the last 2 years and I had this problem every single day, then that makes perfect sense. But when it's been like this since I moved into this house and it's only now becoming a problem, I have no idea what that indicates. What changed? Nothing changed with me. Nothing changed with me. So that's what I don't understand. The same internet setup's been the same internet setup forever. So explain it to me. Yeah, this is really bugging me. It's bugging me. All right, let's get into this. $2 holler from Adam Dowling. No worries, John. We are O-line you. Here's the deal. There's no sugarcoating it. There is no sugarcoating it. By this time of what they add at the O-line, you would see them running the same lineup out there to start gelling as a unit and round into form getting into the season. That's not what we are seeing, though. And it tells you, you guys, you got to just watch. Don't believe what people say. Don't believe what people say. Watch what happens. Yeah. Everybody letting me know it's freezing. I understand there's a problem. I'm trying to fix it. Give me a break. I get it. I see a little alert that tells me it's going bad. I get it. Every time you type it, it doesn't help. You're only seeing what you're seeing because they don't like what they're seeing. Everybody needs to understand that. Everybody needs to understand that. You're already seeing what they're seeing. They don't like it. They don't like it. So now what? You got Knapp running with the first string at left tackle there. Pendleton in there at left guard at times too. I don't think these are just experiments. I don't think these are just experiments to see if we feel like we like this or that or whatever we're doing. I don't understand. All right. Bear with me. I'm going to go see something upstairs. This is pissing me off. Hold on. Hold your calls. I'll be right back in 30 seconds. Gonna be one of those days. Gonna be one of those days. Pat, entertain us. All right. Here's the deal. You don't give away first unit snaps like this just to do it. You don't do it. Knapp, Pendleton, Craig, Shrouth, Wagner, whatever you're doing. If you're going the young route, you're going the young route. Young, athletic, undersized. I don't know what you're doing, but you don't do this for fun. You don't do this for fun, you guys. You don't do this for an experiment. You don't do it to just try it out. At this point in camp, you don't do those musical chairs if you like what you see, and that's the fact. Okay. That's the fact. So if Jagasaw's back, then what do? Add Gerby into the mix. The future's bright with this unit, right? Like if you pull back and you look at it that way, if you get Jagasaw back and you get Gerby in there and you have all these younger guys, that's a really actually pretty athletic, good future lineup. That's great, but the present is very, very iffy, and you cannot exist in a Notre Dame world. You cannot exist in a Notre Dame world you can't be here where it's like Notre Dame's O-line you, O-line you, O-line you, and I'm entering game one and everybody's worried that O-line you could be the reason you lose this huge game you absolutely have to win. Make it make sense, you guys. Literally make that make sense to me. That's what you brag about, and that's what you are, and that's the strength of your program and all this. And we're sitting there going, and you're saying this might make us lose game one. Like, it can't be. So is Tosh just getting looked over and Coogan and Spindler getting passed up by the younger guys? Did they really not like what they see that much? Seriously, Pat, it's not funny. I'm losing my patience. I'm going to break. I'm seriously losing my patience. I understand the internet is not working perfectly. I'm seriously going to break something. I'm not kidding. I get it. Here's the other thing, too. I've seen a lot of people ask how you end up in this position, or like, how did we end up here? Why do you end up where you don't love what you have, or you don't have depth, or you don't have other guys to roll in there? I've seen a lot of that kind of thing. And you're not going to be able to just use that you lost your tackles to the NFL excuse. You had a class a few years ago where you signed 2 offensive linemen, you guys. 2. Whoever's fault that is, I'm not putting the blame. Somebody tell me. You had a class where you signed 2 offensive linemen, Tosh Baker and Carmody. Those were the only 2 guys. So whoever was in charge of doing that part of this back then, what was that, the 2020 class? Was that the 2020 class? Something like that? You signed 2 offensive linemen. That's not even the real world. O-line you, it's supposed to be your strength, whatever. You signed 2 offensive linemen in a class. That's a joke. That's a joke. And it doesn't burn you for the 80th time. It never burns you in that moment. It burns you 2, 3, 4 years down the road when it's those guys' time to cycle through and start, and you don't have the bodies and nobody can compete. Two? You signed 2 offensive linemen in a class at Notre Dame. You can't do that. And so you want to ask, how do you end up in this position with this instability or whatever? That's how. You can't have a class where you only have 2 guys. Their time swings around and you don't have the guys to compete. You don't have the guys to compete. Same thing in 21, Adam, saying where you sign 1 wide receiver. Sure enough, a couple years go by. It's that class's time to be on the field. You don't have the bodies. Same thing, you guys. It can't be. It cannot be. You can't make these kind of catastrophic mistakes in recruiting and not think it's going to burn you. You did it at wide receiver and it burned you. And you did it at O-line and now it looks like it might be burning you. You can't get away with these things. You can't get away with these things. Look we got a Wolverine person in here. Notre Dame is irrelevant. Wow, man. Good one. Slick burn, bro. Good one. You guys are definitely relevant because of the cheating and the rampant disregard for any moral integrity for the sport whatsoever. If that makes you relevant, you're relevant to me. Blatant disregard for respect. How about that? That's relevant. But seriously, you guys, that's where we need to we need to start is you need to understand why you end up here. And this is how you end up here. You have a class where you have 2 guys. That's not even the real world. So whoever was in charge at that point of doing this, that's who I'm going to blame for some of this. 2020, 2 guys. Tosh Baker and Carmody were the only 2. It's unacceptable. That's a joke. Notre Dame, I'll line you. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Well, why couldn't you get more than 2 guys? And why couldn't the 2 guys you get be great? You're not in that position. Same thing with that wide receiver. You land 1 guy, and then a few years later, you want to know why you don't have good wide receiver depth? It isn't rocket science. Did you all forget how bad the recruiting was there? It's not rocket science. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Joe Alt, Blake Fisher is why. Yeah. And then the idea is when your great players go to the league, other guys are in the pipeline developing, and then it's their turn. We do not have that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the problem here. It isn't as simple as you get a free pass because your tackles went to the NFL. No, you need to recruit depth and have guys behind them ready to step in. You don't just get to say our tackles went to the league. It's totally fine. There's nothing you could do to avoid this problem. False. There is something you could have done to avoid the problem. Recruit and stack classes. Recruit and stack classes. That's what you could have done. And you didn't, and you're paying the price. You're paying the price. But I'm not letting people say there's nothing that could have been done about this because you didn't know you're going to lose your tackles. No. The lack of that recruiting in that one class throws everything off. It throws everything off. And you could argue that Fisher should have, people all had to go. You could argue Fisher, you wanted him to come back for a year or whatever. You could argue that. Yeah, the national champs. Yeah, I know. And you have all of our respect, too, for doing it the clean, old-fashioned, hardworking football way, too. That's for sure, Wolverine. Yeah, you got all of our respect. I hope you're happy. Everybody respects the way Michigan did it. They did it straight up the old school way. Just hard-nosed football and grit and toughness. Nothing to see here. I genuflect to your respect for the game. That's for sure. Oh my God, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. So anyways, you guys, I don't know what you guys think of this. I don't know how you think this is going to work out. I want to ask, do you think they're actually going to start this younger offensive line or not? And then I saw somebody say, hang in there, I'll go to the calls. And then I saw somebody say, oh, what, does the portal not exist? Seriously, ask yourself. Fravel says, I'm not worried. Knapp might be the next coming of Joe Alt. He might be the next coming of Joe Alt, but I need somebody to do something week 1. That's the problem, Fravel. I don't have time for this developmental arc to take shape. You got to be good enough week 1. That's the problem. No one's questioning Anthony Knapp's future and how good he's going to be. He moves incredibly uniquely for a young guy on his feet that's that big. He moves great. This is not about the potential of Anthony Knapp. It's about winning week 1. This has nothing to do about the potential of these young guys. It has everything to do about winning week 1 or losing week 1. That's it. I am not questioning Knapp's down the road trajectory. I'm worried about being good enough week 1. That's another thing I want to be very, very clear about here. I'm worried about winning week 1, not the long-term potential of all these guys. They're going to be really, really good. I need them to be good enough week 1. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. When we needed Stallions the most, we still won our games without them. Yeah. What are you, like 40-3 with Stallions and then like 500 without them before them? That's a tough look. It's a tough look. And Michigan person, the other problem I have is You don't get to benefit from the cheating and gaining all that momentum for multiple years. And then for like 3 games, you don't have it anymore. And then you use that as the evidence to say it didn't matter. No, you gained a false edge of confidence for multiple years and rode that through what you did last year. You don't just get to cut it off and act like there's no carryover. You have all that falsely acquired confidence from the cheating all those years. Anyways, I don't know, you guys. I don't know. It's not a good place to be. I want to see how ballsy they get with this. Do you run with the young guy or not? I don't know. All right, let's take some calls, see what people think. Frabble, what do you got? And then I got 567-419-480. You're all coming up. Frabble, what's up?
I'm chilling, man. I'm not freaking out like everybody else. Maybe it's just me, but I go back to the Florida State game in 2021 where Blake Fisher went down and we put out a true freshman kid, 3-star Joe Alt, who was a tight end coming out of high school. I just started playing left tackle and all of a sudden people were freaking out. Man, what are we going to do against Tallahassee? And look what that guy ended up being, the number 5 overall pick in the NFL draft. They have a history of this. I mean, I feel like Notre Dame is on the level of pumping out offensive linemen and especially depth-wise at that position, as like Ohio State would be. One of the receivers goes down, they just plug the next guy in. And you go on to the next. I feel the same way about Notre Dame with offensive line.
Man, I want to have your confidence. I do. And I think if we weren't playing and we were playing week 1, maybe I would feel differently about it. You understand what I mean? Like if there was a little more leeway, or if the matchup was not literally their biggest strength against whatever we're going to run out there that we have anxiety about, I would feel a lot better about it. Do you think it's going to be at left guard too? Like that's the other part about this. It isn't just what they're doing at that tackle spot, but then seeing that they were playing with the left guard spot too. Do they not like what they're seeing from 3 of these guys?
I don't know, man. From my understanding, I thought we were supposed to feel, pretty solid and really good about our interior. I thought the question marks were supposed to be the tackles. So the left guard thing, I think, is a little bit more worrisome. But the left tackle one, I'm not as worried, especially if Tosh was supposed to start. He was getting those reps early on in the week, and Knapp all of a sudden is getting those starts. Something had to happen. Either Tosh just absolutely stunk it up, or there was a position battle for that spot, and Anthony Knapp just flat out beat him, which at that point it is what it is. Tosh Baker's been here for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Still hasn't been able to solidify a starting job. There's a reason for that.
Man, I'm telling you, they made real quick. They made that announcement. Oh, we're moving Tosh over there. That's what we're going to do. That's our first go-to when Jagasaw went down. That's what they announced. That's what we're going to do. That's the answer. It very quickly did not become the answer. So it's pretty clear they don't like what they saw. So then are you just going with undersized and athletic and you just hope that works out? Fine. Anthony Knapp's got a great future. He's going to be excellent. It's just a matter of being able to do what you need to do to get through game 1, kind of. 2 different things. You get what I mean? There's 2 different things. I have no worries about Knapp's development long-term. The problem is not losing week 1 and getting your quarterback hit.
Yeah, and also, we can freak out about the left tackle and all that stuff. And, we still had question marks about Jagasaw, even though he was highly touted. Let's be real here. He was still a freshman, was very inexperienced besides 2 games in the Sun Bowl, which I'm not going to really, he did good in the Sun Bowl, but that was against a very depleted Oregon State team. So there were still question marks around him. So I think it'll affect the game. I don't think it'll impact the game as some other people. You get those people, we're cooked. Texas A&M's going to destroy our offensive line. When I see that, I'm like, name me the last time Notre Dame had an average offensive line, and then name me a time that Notre Dame had a trash offensive line.
Let me ask this.
Let
me ask this. See if you know the answer. I don't know the answer. Everywhere I look, I get a different answer on Knapp's weight. Everything from 279 to he's up to 310. There's a big difference. What is the answer? Can anyone tell me how much does Knapp weigh? I have heard from 279 all the way up to 310. Is the answer somewhere in the middle? I don't think he's up to 300. What does he weigh out there? Anybody want to let me know that? And also, here's the other problem I got is people were writing in here, this is what the portal's for. This is what the portal's for. My comeback to that is, you're not finding great tackles in the portal. They're either in the league or starting where they're at. You don't find great tackles in the portal. You just don't. They're either in the league or starting somewhere and they're established already. So it's not a good remember when we went and got Kane Madden out of the portal? He played like John Madden.
God.
He played like John Madden. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't near good enough. Tough acting, and he's moving in slow motion out there. Not good enough. You can't do it. It's not good enough, bro. Come on.
John, if there's a reason that if you're an offensive lineman and you're in the portal, most likely, probably 99.9% of the time, you're in the portal because you aren't good enough to play wherever you were coming from. So
it's just not an answer.
Let guys lose.
Yeah, it's not at some positions that makes more sense than others, but not like offensive linemen. If they're really, really good, they're leaving early for the pros or they're established in a big program usually. Anyways, listen, I want to be convinced to relax. I want to be convinced it isn't that big of a deal and I'm overreacting. Again, Denbrock, they could put a tight end over there or have a running back over there to chip or protect. Like, I don't know, but it's just, there's no way around. This is not what they had in mind. Let's just leave it. This is not what they had in mind.
Yeah, and I almost kind of like, with the thing with Knapp that it does worry me, if I had to be worried about anything, is that he's inexperienced going on the road, hostile environment, going to be lined up against Nick Skirton, who's arguably one of the best edges, if not the best edges in the country. That was worrisome just from the experience factor. So when they originally said, Tosh, I was like, okay, Tosh is not nearly as good as Jagasaw, probably not nearly as good as Knapp in terms of like pure talent standpoint. But at least he's experienced. He started games. He's not going to be shaken playing because he started before. But clearly, Knapp showed something or Tosh showed something that made the staff think otherwise. The guard spot, I'm a little more worried about that because I need to do some more digging on that. But that, dude, I think if our worry, if we, even with the question marks around our offensive line hanging in this A&M game, we should still beat A&M. Like, we should still beat A&M. You look on the paper and say, what positions does A&M have us beat at? The only real question mark you got is their D-line versus our offensive line. Everywhere else, you could say most likely Notre Dame checks that box against A&M. So I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. That's what I'm having trouble separating is, like, asking myself, if this wasn't the matchup week 1, would I feel the same? Or would I be this? It would be a concern, but nowhere near what it is for a lot of this fan base. I think it's just this particular matchup is a really, really scary one. If the previews are true, that's the strength of their team, and that we have these issues, all I'm saying is it's anxiety producing. It's not a guaranteed loss or a guarantee we're not going to be able to hang in there. It's nothing like that. Like, I'm not saying, oh my gosh, we're going to lose the game. I'm saying I'm very, very concerned about it, and I'm going to be until I'm proven that I don't need to be. Hold your own the first quarter and a half and don't give up a bunch of pressure, and then I'll feel a lot better about it. But I'm going to worry about it until I don't have to. I just am.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You're going to feel a lot better, John. Saturday night, week 1, after we get that W, you're chilling on the couch.
Oh,
your hair's starting to your hair's not as gray anymore.
Oh yeah.
And you're doing your game, and you're going to be like, okay, now I ain't got to worry about it until Florida State comes. You'll have like 6 weeks, and you'll be chilling.
Yeah, man, I really, what I really want that for? I want us to win this game so that I can relax the next day to watch Brian Kelly against USC. But Right? Like I'm only going to be in the mood to troll everybody involved in that game if we win our game. If we lose, I'm not going to want to watch any football till I have to again. Like I really need us to win so I can enjoy that game.
Who are you rooting for in that game, by the way? Because I'm still going. I'm thinking USC.
Yeah, USC.
But
I am.
The Notre Dame part of me can't let me do it.
Like I want it. I'm the way I'm doing it in my mind is if you want USC to win, number one, that would upset Kelly and all the LSU people and everything. So that would be fun. So then you would have Kelly catching another week 1 loss, which would be a trend for him at LSU. And then USC would get a big win. And then theoretically, that would pump USC up. So if we beat them, it's a better win by us. But I think USC is going to have a handful or a few losses at least by the end of the year. I really do.
Yeah, to be honest, John, I'm rooting for the Meteor in that one. Man.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I mean, it's seriously, trust me, it's not a very comfortable position to be in. It really isn't. And you know what else bothers me is that Lincoln Riley tried to get out of this game and all that. I do respect Kelly for being like, no, we're playing this game. You're not weaseling out of this, trying to say, we shouldn't play it. They share the agent and he tried to get out of it. And no. We're going to play it. We're going to play it. So good on Kelly for not letting him out of this game. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what everybody says is that Lincoln Riley, that's what people say is he left Oklahoma because he didn't want to play in the SEC. So
yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. This is going to be really interesting. I appreciate you bringing the temperature down on this a little bit. But as for me, this was already my number one worry before the Jagasaw injury. This was already my number one worry. So it's not going to it's just not going to change. The only way I'll feel better about it is when I see that it's not a problem against A&M. And until then, I'm going to worry about it. It is my number one concern. It's my number one concern as I sit right now. So I really like the future of this line. They're going to be really, really good. The problem is I need you to be good enough now. It's not about what I think about the future. This line's going to be good. All these young guys are going to be good. I need them to be good enough now. That's my problem.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that it's a question mark. It's something you should be concerned about. But you know how our fan base is, John. You see it firsthand. You're on Twitter, just like I am, and you see it already. It's from that percentage of the fan base that always like, oh, man, we're cooked. We're losing. We're going to get dominated on the offensive line, all that stuff. And I just sometimes I feel like I need to be like the voice of reason, kind of Aaron Rodgers, almost like the RELAX. You just need to relax, chill.
I don't have that in me. I don't have that gear in me, man. The day that I'm relaxed about Notre Dame, somebody call an ambulance because I think it's over. Like, seriously, that's how I know I'm alive, is if I'm worried about something in Notre Dame land. The day I relax, somebody call a casket company because Johnny's gone. Something's wrong. Telling you, man.
Dude, I'm just so burnt out.
I know.
The last few weeks,
I know. We just need
Derek
football.
Meadows.
Yeah, we need football back, man. We need actual football back so that we could just get some answers to these questions. We need football back. Hey, thanks for starting us off on a Friday, man. I appreciate you balancing out the ledger. Have a day.
Yeah, you too, man. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care. I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna have number one is the internet's driving me insane. Looking at the little rate of like the bar strength thing in the corner of this stream is I want to punch the screen. Number two is I've got to plug my cell phone into this cord that like translates the wire, whatever, to make the call, to call in the host channel on the call-in line that allows you guys to call in. And I tried to plug that in today, and it was like ignoring, like you ever plug a cord in, but the device is just ignoring your command. So like you plug it in, but it's not recognizing it for some reason. Then you got to do the old, like move the wires around and position them until it recognizes it. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm having some technical difficulties and I don't appreciate it. Having some technical difficulties and I don't appreciate it. I appreciate Frabble calming everybody down here, trying to calm everybody down here. I really do. I'm going to worry about this till I see that it's not a problem. And if Anthony Knapp goes out there and starts and he has some trouble week 1, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, he's not good enough. He's bad. What are we doing? Like, why do we have a bad player starting? No, I'm not going to do that. Like, you're putting a young guy out there for a reason. He's got to develop. You don't have anybody else. Like, that's not going to be Knapp's problem. He's going to be a really good player. You're just putting him out there before he's ready. So I don't know what you want. What do you want him to do about it? I don't know what you want him to do about that. It's not his fault. like it's not going to be Knapp's fault. And you just hope you're not affecting his journey long term when you have a guy like that starting that young and whatever. You just hope it's not so rough and it's so early or he's undersized or anything that it beats him up and gets in his mind or something. Like, that's the only problem on that end, I guess. 567, what's going on? 419-480 coming up. 567, what's up?
Hey, what's up, John? This is Delmer Guy.
What's going on, Delmer Guy? It's been a while. Thank you for coming. Man, it's been almost 10 months since you called. Welcome to the program. Welcome back. What are the realities of this offensive line thing? Are we overreacting or is this going to be okay?
I'm starting to wonder if it's not going to be a left tackle by committee type thing for the first few weeks, especially considering after the A&M game how it lines up with a few cupcakes. I'm starting to wonder if they're just going to try to plug a few guys in there and kind of see what happens. You know what I mean?
I think that's definitely on the table. I think that's definitely an option. All I know is I just look at the actions, not what anybody's saying. I look at the actions. And when your first reaction was to do the Tosh thing and you very, very quickly start seeing all these other changes, it tells you they don't like what they saw. And at least give them credit for recognizing that they don't like what they saw. They're not trying to convince themselves of something that isn't true. It's very, very clear they don't like what they've been seeing. So I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us, but it's got to be good enough week 1. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough.
The thing with Tosh is this is his 5th year, right?
Yeah, at least. At least.
Okay, so the thing with Tosh is you know what you got. You know what you got with that kid. I don't know what year it was we played Florida State, but when Tosh got all that playing time, was it 21 or 22? But the caller before me said that we've always had a good offensive line, and we've always had pretty decent offensive lines. But that year that we opened up at Florida State, when we did have to break all in, them first 4 or 5 games were rough.
Yeah. They
were rough on that left side. We were giving up like 4 or 5 sacks a game.
Yeah, it's
so with Tosh, this coaching staff should have known, I think, already what they have with that guy.
Well,
and to me, when I watch him play, he's big and he's got the weight, he's got the height. He just don't show me any nasty. He don't have bad intentions.
But don't you think they do know that? And that's why he lost the right tackle job. Like, that's the problem. I think they do know it, but they don't have good answers. They do know it. That's why he lost the right tackle job to a younger guy. So they do know it. I just think they don't have any.
Shame on that coaching staff then, yeah. John, for not recruiting better. Because the cycle they went with only taking the 2 offensive linemen, shame on them, because now you're paying for it.
It's a problem. And it's the same issue you had with that wide receiver. And it never burns you that year of the recruiting class. It takes 2, 3, 4 years for that class to cycle through. And then it's their time to be the meat and potatoes of the team. And you don't have anywhere to go. So I'm just reminding people, I'm not letting you say our tackles went to the league, therefore this is okay. It does not work that way. People also keep saying the transfer portal. There aren't great O-linemen in the transfer portal. They're in the NFL or starting somewhere already. There are not good O-linemen in the portal better than what Notre Dame has. Kane Madden was the last experiment, and it went horribly. That is not the answer. You could go to the portal for a lot of things and make it work. Great O-lineman is not the answer. It ain't there.
I agree. You're at this point, you're stuck with who you have. You have to make the most out of what you have and just pray for the best. But I'm just like most of the other people in here. I don't feel comfortable about it. I hope they prove me wrong, but I don't feel comfortable about it. I didn't feel comfortable about it with Jagasol in the first place.
Me too.
Because so,
it was my number.
Even with Jagasol, I was uneasy about it.
Me too. Me too. Entering fall camp, before any of this happened, my number one concern was how the O-line was going to hold up. And I was counting Jagasaw in that equation. Now that he's out, I just don't know. I don't know. And then people are giving me a hard time about, okay, well, then let's blame Harry and go back and blame Kelly or whatever. Whoever was in charge of the O-line recruiting when you only had 2 guys in a class, can I blame that guy or is that not fair? Because that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry.
It's completely fair to blame that guy.
I'm sorry. Whoever was overseeing things that ended up with 2 O-linemen committed to a Notre Dame class, I'm blaming whoever that is. And nobody's going to tell me I'm wrong for that. 2? You're O-line U and you get 2 O-linemen in a whole class? Come on, man. Somebody dropped the ball.
Can we stop with I'm with you, John. Can we stop with the O-line U? Because we are not O-line U. The only time I have seen Notre Dame be O-line U is in the second half of the Ohio State game last year until the last 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
That is the only time I have ever witnessed that. Ever.
I really hate to say this. This really hurts me. A good example of O-line U is like Michigan, Penn State last year, where they ran the ball 28 times in a row just because they knew Penn State wouldn't be able to stop it. And they let them know we're just going to keep running it and you're not going to stop it. And they kept running it and they kept not stopping it. Like, I need O-line U to be winning your biggest games because they're mashing people. And like, I'm waiting for that to happen. And listen, I'm not saying you don't have good individual guys that go and win games or whatever, or go and get drafted and play good in the NFL. But there's never been a time where the Notre Dame O-line has won us the biggest game on the schedule. That's a problem. When you're calling it O-line U, in my mind, that means they're winning us the biggest games on the schedule. When has that ever happened?
Can you agree with me that I know we lost the Ohio State game last year, but that second half, until the last part of that game, didn't we control the line that entire second half? We ran the ball. I don't know how many times, but it was way more than we passed it. And we were telling Ohio State, we're running the ball. We know you know it, and we still did it, and we did it effectively. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, but that's the only time that I could ever claim Notre Dame is O-line U. And for one half of football, you can't make that claim. And you didn't even win the game. So I'm over O-line U.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I've been frustrated with it for a long time. I respect the guys we put in the league and all that, and they're very, very good. And I respect all that. It's just, I need those units to be winning the biggest games while they're at Notre Dame. Like, I need that to be a part of O-line U.
What are you doing for me when we're playing Georgia?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. You rush it for 52 yards when you're playing Georgia is what the answer was. Literally, you rushed it for like 52 yards. Like, I'm just saying, if you want to be O-line U, it can't just be who you get drafted. It should be like you need to win big on the field. Anyways, I don't want to make it all about that. Listen, these younger O-linemen are going to be really good, and they're very athletic for Notre Dame. And if you need to start their development early, it's not ideal, but they're going to be really, really good. I just can't have this ruin the year this year right out of the gate. It just can't. This is supposed to be a program strength, and I just can't have it ruining you right out. It can't be. It can't be.
I completely agree, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit here.
Okay.
So So most people here in this community, like, I watch your show pretty frequently, and I'm a huge fan, and I love everybody that's a part of this community. I love chatting in the chat, and it's we got a lot of knowledgeable guys in here, and I just love talking Notre Dame football. But most people here think that I'm pretty negative, but I'm really not. Especially about Marcus Freeman. Okay, I'm a Marcus Freeman guy. I'm told I'm not in the chat because of the things that I say pretty frequently, but I wanted him hired, and he was my first choice as coach. But how is there any difference than 3, 4, 5 years ago between the current coaches and what we had 3 or 4 or 5 years ago? It's the same stuff on the field, and it's the same stuff on the recruiting. How is it any different? I'm starting to get to the point. This year 3 is big. I'm not trying to say fire Marcus Freeman at all, because like I just said, I'm a Marcus Freeman guy.
But is a big
year though.
Yeah.
This year is so important, and that Texas A&M game is so huge because the schedule. We do have a lighter schedule this year.
Yeah.
If this year does not go well for Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, I am really, really going to start questioning him. I'm starting to question him now, but I'm really going to start questioning him if this year does not go well.
How much of this has to do with the on the field, and how much of it has to do with you thought the recruiting would be at a higher level than what you're getting? Is it an equal blend, or is that a part of it? Like I'm just trying to meet you where you're at.
So I knew what I was getting with Marcus Freeman when I wanted to hire the guy, because I knew that he was a great recruiter, and I was willing to take that and let him learn on the job because I knew he was a first-year head coach, and he's making mistakes. So the 10 men on the field and the not taking a timeout before halftimes, I'm going to take those lumps. I will take those lumps. But the recruiting, I'm not going to take them. Let me ask you a question, John, okay? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you with our current roster?
6.
6?
You mean like, I mean, overall, I'm not just looking at like the starters,
overall,
starters
every position
against
the current roster.
Maybe more than a 6, but if you're looking down the road, it would go down a little bit, right? Like I'm a higher on this actual year than I am a rolling program average, if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying?
I'm talking about our current roster that we're going to put out there for A&M. How
probably a 7 or probably
how confident are you?
Probably a 7-ish.
Okay. So let me ask you that. Now I'm going to ask you the same question, but this time let's act like Keeley, Bowen, Dante Moore, Derek Meadows, Deuce Knight, Ivan Taylor, etc. are on the same roster. Does that change your score?
Yeah, it does change my score. You have not only a lot more depth, but it's high-end talent. Yeah, it changes a lot. It changes a lot.
Okay, so when Holtz was hired, my pop used to tell me this. He told me this numerous times. He said that the ND administration told him we have high academic standards here. We play the toughest schedule in the country, and we expect you to win and recruit at a high level. I went through the Davie, the O'Leary, the Willingham, and the Weiss eras. So I appreciate what BK did, bringing the program back to winning 10 games a season, relevance. But it's time to ascend. The time is now. And if Marcus Freeman, I don't know. I just don't know if the guy can recruit like everybody thought that he could, because I think that in order to take the next step of being good to great, you need the Keeleys, you need the Bowens, you need the Deuce Knights, you need the Derek Meadows, you need the cherries on top.
Yeah.
He's proven to us 2 years in a row that he can't finish those.
Oh, yeah. I can't argue with any of these talking points. You're absolutely right. Like Freeman was brought in here, and a big part of why he got the job was to land these type of guys that could change the narrative at the top end of a class. That's exactly one of the big key reasons he was brought in. And it just hasn't happened enough. And it is one of the concerns you would have about Marcus Freeman is He's not able to land those true difference makers at the very, very top of each of these recruiting classes, and it's a problem, and I agree with you. I'm with you on that. You got to figure out a way around that problem. You cannot be losing the top guys in your recruiting class and then tell me you're maintaining momentum as a program. It makes no sense. You can't tell me it. I need them to figure that out.
I just don't understand some of the guys in the chat, some of the people in the chat sometimes. They get so butthurt when I'm constantly on Freeman's ass. And sorry for the language, but the standard here is not to win just 10 games and be mediocre. It's always been natty or bust, and that's what it's always been. And I just think this fan base has gotten too used to mediocrity.
Man, it's frustrating, and I'm right there with you. And I feel the increased pressure on the field this year is tied to some of those recruiting frustrations. Like, if you're not getting exactly what you wanted out of that recruiting thing, you better darn well win on the field. And then maybe that will feed into the other hand here. But you can't end up in a position where you're not recruiting elitely and you're not winning your big games on the field, is what I'm trying to say here. You can't be in that position. And if you lose to A&M, that's the position you are in, because the recruiting's trended away from you. You cannot lose that game. You have no momentum at all then if you lose that football game. Not on the field and not off of it. Where's your foundation and what are you leaning on? It's a very dangerous place to be, and I don't like it. Win the game.
And look, I'm giving Freeman some slack in the coaching aspect of it, because I know it's his first head coaching job. So I'm giving him slack. I'm willing to take the lumps in the coaching aspect. What I'm not willing to do is give him any slack on the recruiting, because that's what we hired him for. And he is failing us so far in that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
It's got to get
so far.
It's got to get better.
He has not done what he's supposed to do.
It's got to be. Listen, you cannot have this class end up like the 15th or 16th ranked class and then tell me that's a successful recruiting for Marcus Freeman. No. Like, whatever we're doing here, wherever this settles, if it's December 9th or whatever that day is, and we end up 15th or 16th or something, no. That's a Kelly class, and we all said it wasn't good enough. No. That's not what I'm looking for. So if you end up in that position, a lot of things need to change. You're all that recruiting, like, credibility, and we got to keep Chad and give everybody a promotion and everything's awesome. No. You need to redo whatever. You need to redo something. Because I didn't hire Marcus Freeman with no on-field experience to have the 15th best recruiting class. I'm not interested in that at all. That is not what I'm here for, and that's not what he's here for. If that's where we end up, you got to recalibrate and start doing things different, because that ain't good enough. That's my position.
So far, you agree that that's where we've been, and it's not much different than the last resume, right?
I mean, I do think the rosters, the guys he's going after, it's more athletic and longer and more flexible than a Kelly era class. Like, I could see the type he's going for, longer, more athletic guys that are more like, I see that vision, but on the high end, it's not where I need it to be. And it's not where Freeman envisioned it being either. It's just not.
Oh, okay. So with what you just said, then why, if you see it, you seem like you believe it's a bit better with Freeman than it was with Brian Kelly. Am I correct there?
I do, but it's nowhere near what I had my mind on and what people wanted it to be with Freeman. It's nowhere near that.
So you don't think that it's that big of a difference to be able to make a difference on the field?
I think it'll make some difference, but nowhere near the level that I needed it to be at, and that I envisioned. Listen, if you're going to give the head job at Notre Dame to a guy with no experience, he's got to make up for that somewhere on the plus side. That somewhere was supposed to be not really good, not good, elite recruiting. That was the deal we made. Is that no experience, but you got to give me something else to balance that out. And it was elite recruiting was the idea that was going to balance it out, the no experience. You can't not have either. And that's the problem I'm going to have.
And just, I have not seen any difference I hear about the blue chip ratio. Me personally, I have not seen any difference between Brian Kelly's recruiting classes and Marcus Freeman recruiting classes. I have not seen any difference between on the field, wins and losses, bowl games. We've won a Gator Bowl. We've won the Sun Bowl. I'm not here for that. So to me, it hasn't changed a bit. We're still winning 10 games a season, but I'm not here for that. I'm here to compete for national championships, baby.
Oh, man. Well, it's a big year 3 for Marcus. We all know the history. We all know all that. You got to get out of the gate here with any sort of win, no matter what it looks like, and then go from there. Anything on the way out, man? Thanks for mixing it up here on a Friday.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Yeah, I just had one more thing. On to the A&M game. I was just going to say something real fast. And I think we're pretty two evenly matched teams. I'd give the talent edge to A&M slightly. With that said, though, it's not the roster that I'm scared of. It's the moment. Marcus Freeman, year 3, Mike Elko, year 1. We should have the more seasoned veteran team.
Yep.
But I think A&M wins, and until we change the narrative, I won't believe that we can win in a moment like this.
I am with you. I love what you said about it isn't about like the game or that roster necessarily. It's about the moment. I've been using that line as well. Notre Dame has not handled these moments the right way. That doesn't put any value or respect or disrespect on A&M or their roster, how put together they're going to be in year 1, game 1, or whatever. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the moment, meaning a huge game must win to maintain any positive vibes, whatever. That moment, Notre Dame has not done well in. Dude, people are giving you a hard time. V-dub, you ain't no ND fan, caller, whatever. You don't have to always be positive all the time to be a Notre Dame fan, you guys. I got news for you. Sometimes being a fan of your team means asking tough questions and realizing when your own team isn't doing something good enough. Sometimes that's what makes you a good fan, not just saying, I'm going to look over it and everything's fine because I want it to be in my heart. Anyway.
Look, John, Brian Kelly was winning 10 games a year. Marcus Freeman is winning 10 games a year. It's time to ascend. I'm not here to win 10 games a year, okay? I'm not here for that. I'm here to compete for national championships. That is the standard. This fan base needs to realize that is the standard, national championships here. We're not here to win 10 games a season and win Gator Bowls. That's not what we're here for. So I don't know what it is with this fan base, but I think that I'm a pretty practical Notre Dame fan. I just don't get it. 10 games a season is not the standard.
Man, you're never gonna.
It's not.
It's just funny. I don't know if it's me or you or both. Then stop complaining and go join the staff. I'm not saying that I or the caller are invited to or smart enough to join the staff. You don't need to be a genius to look at what's going on. You don't need to be a genius to objectively look at what is going on and what is going well and what isn't. You don't have to be a coach or be a genius. All you got to do is just be honest about where things are at. Oh, man. Anyway, all right. Thanks a lot, man.
Do you think when Marcus Freeman was hired, John, they told him, hey, we were hiring you to go out there and win 9 or 10 games a season?
Yeah.
No. They told him that you're here to compete for national championships.
Yeah. It's telling you, man, it's tough. You're go coach. It ain't that bad. This team ain't mediocre. The idea is to be. It bothers me that the bar is mediocre. Why is the bar wait
to stand on?
But why is the bar mediocre?
How do fans like that have legs to stand on? How has Notre Dame proven to you that they are not mediocre? How have they proven to you? When is the 1993 people? 1993 is the last year that Notre Dame has won anything of any real significance.
Yeah.
So how do you have any legs to stand on when you make comments like that? When you say this team is not mediocre, how can you say that when this team has done nothing but proven mediocrity or below that for the past 30 seasons?
Here's the other problem that I'm having. The other problem that I'm having is when you criticize something or the way things are going with a something in the Freeman era or whatever, Then I hear, well, oh, you want to fire Freeman or, fire Freeman then or whatever. Why can't I say I want Freeman here, but he's got to get better at things? Why is nobody usually open to that? Nobody seems open to that.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But I have trouble with this.
Did I not say at the beginning of this call that I'm willing to take the lumps on the coaching, but I want to make up for it in the recruiting? And I'm not saying that I want Marcus Freeman fired. I said that at the very beginning of the call, but he needs to get better. He needs to be held accountable. It's the head coach's job to recruit at a high level. It's the head coach's job to convince Deuce Knight to stay committed. It's the head coach's job to get Derek Meadows and Keon Keeley to stay committed. It's his job. He failed at several of those things. And I am going to hold him accountable.
And I just get a little frustrated when it's like, well, get Freeman out of here. No, I want Freeman to succeed here, but he's got to change some things that are not going as well as we wanted them to go. That's my only point. You got to start winning more of these big games on the field. And then you need to figure out this recruiting thing. You cannot miss at the top end of your recruiting class every year and maintain any sort of practical or perceptual momentum in your program. Possible, you're not able to do it. So I just need some changes there. And we need to see it. We need to see it. So I don't know, man, but I appreciate you calling. I don't think you're totally out of line here. People are saying you're way too negative or whatever. I get where you're coming from. Winning is kind of the tide that rises all ships. You got to find a way to get through week one and win that game. Whatever that offensive line looks like, whatever, it doesn't need to be great, doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be good enough to get us through that moment, and everybody can take a deep breath, and we'll be able to settle into the year. I'm with you, brother. Thanks for the call. It's been a while.
To anybody who thinks that I'm a negative Notre Dame fan and not a real Notre Dame fan, I was at the USC game with my pop last year. We paid $300 a ticket for that game, and that was after we lost the game to Louisville, and we had 2 losses on our schedule. Me and my dad stormed that field together. I bleed blue and gold, people. I'm not negative. I'm practical, and I'm realistic. The standard is national championship. John, I love your show. Keep doing your thing, brother.
Have a good one. Take care. Man, he mixed it up. I am really, really surprised. So many people are in here saying, I'm really surprised so many people are in here being like, why are you guys being negative? And why aren't you being more like what? You're not being honest with yourself if you're saying that the recruiting you're getting right now is what you thought it would be under Freeman and it's good enough. That you're lying. It's not at the level that I envisioned it being at if Freeman's coming in here, and that's the balance. We're giving up experience, but we're gaining elite recruiting. That was the deal, you guys. That was the implicit deal made. Everybody needs to understand that was the deal made. We didn't shake hands on it. You didn't have to. There was a known, that was the deal. Giving up on less on the experience, more on the elite recruiting. And the idea was you're going to fill that roster with way better recruiting while Freeman's learning on the field and then marry the two. I'm fine making that deal, but I can't have either. I can't have neither where I'm not getting the higher level recruiting and we're not winning it big on the field. I can't have that. You can't be in no man's land in the middle. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. And I just need... You got to win week one so bad to just balance things out. Timmy Hyde, are you in here? Good to see you. Good morning, brother. Andrew donated. He's coming up. And then 419-480-347. You're coming up too. Good morning, Andrew. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, John? How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Andrew, we need football. We need answers to these questions. I think everybody's just getting in their own head this offensive line has people spinning their wheels and the recruiting is behind the scenes in the picture. Where do you want to take it today?
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying I love Domer guy. He is a legit fan. So people are trying to criticize him and say he's not a fan or something is ridiculous. He's a diehard, and that's a tough call to follow. And I think that to your point, you're allowed to question the head coach at Notre Dame. We've questioned every head coach. And then just to give you an example, Dabo Sweeney, who's won so much at Clemson, made Clemson into a powerhouse. Clemson was always a good team. I don't know if I'd ever consider Clemson a blue blood. He made them into a blue blood, won 2 national championships, and he has people calling in, questioning him. So to act like we can't question Marcus Freeman is ridiculous. So people need to just stop being such sycophants and, hear different perspectives.
I think it's a really fair point. If you could question if a guy who's won the championship multiple times is on the right path or whatever, if people could openly question that guy, who are we to question anything happening in Notre Dame land? It's a very good look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I wanted to call in is talk offensive line, because that's the big topic. And I'm glad that I missed the first 30 minutes of your show, but it seems like we've moved past the idea that, Rudolph is just tinkering, right? Like we're all in agreement that it's probably going to be Knapp and Pendleton. Is that right?
My position is, at this point in camp, you don't see all those changes running with the ones if there's not a problem. That tells you they did not like what they saw from their original reshuffling plan. That's what that signals to me. They did not like what they saw, and they're trying other things. I don't know any other way to take that message. I'm looking at what I'm seeing, and you don't do that. What we've been seeing in practice, multiple sessions of the ones with this different lineup with the younger guy, you don't see that if they like what they saw. I don't know any other way to interpret this situation. I don't.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. And so, I don't know. I was in a chat of, one of your competitors yesterday, and people were like, "Oh, calm down, Andrew." I'm like, this is the new lineup. Knapp is the left tackle, and Pendleton's the guard. So it is number one, and number two, you don't tinker and show Knapp and Pendleton 2 times to the press in open practice. I mean, what are we talking about here? Plus, we're after Saturday's practice. It's Texas A&M prep now. So it's like we're going into game week prep. You're not messing around and tinkering with your offensive line at that
That's
point.
the way.
So
that's the way.
That's
that's kind of the way I see it too. And I guess I'll say this, Andrew. If you're doing this, do you give them any credit for if they're tinkering or wavering to just roll the dice and go with the young athletic lineup? Do you give them some credit? If they have no good options that are older that they rely on, that they feel like, well, we're just going to go with the young guys that we know have big upside and get the development going. Do you credit them for doing that as opposed to running out the older guy that's bigger just because he's older and bigger, but not necessarily better? What do you make of the decision practically?
Well, I always will credit, and this doesn't have anything to do with Notre Dame. This is just as somebody who played 3 sports in high school, I will always give credit to a coach who has a real competition, does not just play favorites, it doesn't just put the old guy out there, has a real competition. And so when he said there was going to be a competition on the offensive line, he meant it. And so I think you have to have faith that he's picking the best guys, because they've been at it for 3 weeks. Tosh Baker had his shot. I was a big defender of Tosh Baker just because of his loyalty to Notre Dame. But, dude, you had your shot, and Anthony Knapp must be outplaying him in practice. So I think you just got to have faith that Joe Rudolph knows what he's doing. And it's been really, popular to bash Joe Rudolph online. And I think there's, because of certain Notre Dame media and influencers for that reason. But people need to remember that Joe Rudolph was a Joe Moore semifinalist. So he's been recognized by his peers as being a good offensive line coach. He coached at Wisconsin during some really historic years at Wisconsin when they were running the ball like crazy. So I think he's putting the best guys out there. Now, am I saying that this is going to be a good offensive line? I think it's going to be the weak point for Notre Dame this season. But I think he's probably putting the best guys on the field. I mean, he's seen it. And then I think you said Tim Hyde's in the chat. I want to mention a couple of things that he said because I'm a message board member over at his stuff. But they're filming every single play, so he sees every single play, and so that's why I think he's probably making this decision. So,
yeah, it's All I'm saying is there's some significant Notre Dame irony in here that one of the things you're most known for being really good at could be the downfall of the entire pivotal year 3 of the Marcus Freeman era. Like, it's so ironic to me in the Notre Dameiest way that this is what we're known for, and we're sitting here and don't have good answers. It blows my mind being here.
Well,
I don't like being here at all.
I'm glad Tim Hyde's in the chat. I just want to mention one other thing, because I've told him a few times, and I am not a fan, certainly not a sycophant of that guy, Chad Bowden. I think it's kind of ridiculous that guy got a raise and a promotion. Because I think, to Domer guy's point, we can talk about missing out on the high-end talent, but I think what gets me, and we've talked about it to death, is the strategy around Notre Dame's recruiting. Like, Billy to recruit in the Deep South, go to California, stuff like that. Well, Tim Hyde did an analysis where he looked at Georgia's offensive line recruiting and compared it to Notre Dame. And one thing that just was so apparent was that Georgia takes like a minimum of 5 offensive linemen every single class. And by doing that, you don't, and then one year they even took 7 guys. And you do that because you don't want a situation like this where you got to play, like true freshmen. So I think that Notre Dame should take note of that. And if there's one position Notre Dame's good at recruiting, it's offensive line. Why are you only taking three or 4 guys every year when it's 5 guys you got to fill the positions for? So and then you have the same situation in 2021 where you hadn't recruited enough guys. A few guys go pro early, and then all of a sudden, you're starting freshmen again. So it's just it's bad strategy. Like, why aren't you recruiting and bringing in more guys?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It just seems like there's been a couple lulls in the recruiting, and they've just come back to burn Notre Dame at the wrong time where they bubble up, right? Like, it's never
but but that is something that they can control. Like, you know what? I always thought it was sort of pie in the sky that Freeman was just going to come in here and wave his magic wand and start landing, top 10 5-star guys, because that's just such a different animal to land those types of players. But this is something totally in his control. How many offensive linemen across the country are good academically and would love to come play for Notre Dame because it's almost a guaranteed ticket to the NFL?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unacceptable that you're only bringing in 3 or 4 guys every class.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Or is it that they don't have enough guys they like, or the guys they like don't want them? Like, I'm trying to figure out why that number would be so low.
No, I just think
if you're known for this, shouldn't you kind of have the inside track to pick the guys you want? Like, how do you end up in that position, I guess?
I think it's poor strategy. It's, there's only so many guys you can take in a class, and they're prioritizing the wrong position. Because, I think why Tim Hyde brought up Georgia was because Georgia wins national championships. And why do they win national championships? They're so good on both sides of the ball at the point of attack. And so it's like, and that's something Notre Dame can control. I mean, they've never been great at recruiting defensive line, but they clearly know how to recruit offensive line. So why aren't you just loading up? It's a huge strategic mistake, and that's why we're in this position. One guy goes pro early, and now we're in the position of starting a true freshman at tackle. So, but I think the good news is, for Carr or Minchie, or if Deuce Knight actually ends up at Notre Dame, we're going to probably have a 6 offensive line. It's just not going to be in 2024.
Yeah.
It's going to be down the road.
No, you're definitely right. And then you add Jagasaw back healthy. You add Gerby Lambert into the mix. Like, you're going to have a really, really good offensive line. It's just a matter of when. It's just a matter of when.
The kid coming next year is like a legit 5-star.
Yeah.
So
who is it? Is it Black? Is it Black? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is I oftentimes am critical of Notre Dame not getting the right pieces in the portal. But one thing to defend Notre Dame is it's so hard to get a quality tackle out of the portal.
Yeah.
So I mean, and if there's anybody in the portal that's even remotely good, you have to pay them an insane amount of money. That's why I was shocked that Tosh Baker didn't hit the portal. It's like, I know he hasn't played very much, but to be like a former 5-star, I think he was close to a 5-star, and, have a reason why you sat behind Alt and Fisher. I was shocked that he didn't hit the portal. He already had his degree. He could have maybe gotten a little bit of a payday and some playing time. So, but good thing he stuck around, so we have a little bit of depth. So.
Oh yeah, man. It's this is going to be really, really interesting, and I think everybody's looking at that line against A&M, and we need to see how they hold up. I just need you to be good enough.
One last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, do you think they have sort of wasted? Here's the real question. Do you agree that CJ Carr is the heir apparent? He's likely to be the starting quarterback next year, and if so, have they wasted his fall camp by having him take fourth team snaps all camp?
I believe.
At no point is he taking second team snaps.
I believe I would put my money on him to win the job next year, and I wanted more of a real competition for the backup role, but they wanted to give it to Angeli and keep it moving, and nobody talk about it or think about it or ask about it or even do anything there. And they just kind of anointed it to him. But I do not expect him to win the starting job next year. So it's it feels very awkward how those things are positioned back to back.
Well, here's something for you to think about. And I know people in the chat just are going to rip this apart, but so Notre Dame is very democratic, and it's very open to whoever wants to win the position when it comes to like linebacker, when it comes to wide receiver, certainly on the offensive line. Why would we think that they're not open to competition at quarterback? And so if they are open to competition at quarterback, is there any cause or concern that CJ Carr can't beat out Kenny Minchey for the third string position? Even though a guy, Kenny Minchey, who can't beat out Steve Angeli, who we know is super average. I mean, is there any cause for concern there?
I don't think I've thought of it that way, because I just think with quarterback, they look at it different, and they have a line, like a pecking order they want to do for a reason. And I think a part of it is like holding Carr back that extra year to save that whole year of development and do I just think there's a bigger plan with them rolling out the quarterbacks than some other positions. Does that make sense?
Well, I encourage you to, because you have the Ohio podcast guy, I encourage you to have him call in at some point, because they got a quarterback out of my hometown, San Diego, a guy out of Carlsbad named Julian Thames. He was a true 5-star quarterback, same class as CJ Carr, was originally going to go to Alabama, transferred to Ohio State after Nick Saban left. Do you think that guy's taking 14 reps right now? Absolutely not. He came in as the fourth quarterback. He's already passed that guy, Eric Nolan, who was also a big prospect.
Yeah.
And right now he's pushing Devin Brown for second team reps. And all the stuff, like when Ryan Day is asked about him, this guy is going to be legit. So he's not wasting away. What people don't understand is when you're on the fourth team, I don't care how deep you are, even Alabama in its heyday, when you're on the fourth team, you're throwing and going up against walk-ons. So what's the point of that? Like if they really saw him as the backup, why would you be playing him against walk-ons? What kind of quality of the reps are there? So I just put that out there because I think I put it out there because I would not be shocked, and you guys are going to hate to hear this, but I would not be shocked if Notre Dame goes to the portal again for another quarterback next year.
Oh man, I so want to be over with that. Let me worry about one thing at a time, but I wanted to be over that. Carr ascends to the role. There's a competition. He wins it. It's an in-house guy. You have a few years of that consistency. That's what I'd like to happen. If they go to the portal again, it's a big signal they don't see that. And then this is all a big mess all over again. You didn't do anything to solve you didn't do anything to solve your Kelly era complaint at quarterback then. If you're going to lose Deuce out of the class, CJ Carr was that other big shiny toy, and you're sidestepping him to go to the portal again, you're in the same mess you were in quarterbacks, and you didn't figure out anything.
But my point on Carr is this. Either it's coaching malpractice that you're making this guy take fourth team snaps, even though he's better than that, or he's not at this point. He is not better than Minchie or Angeli, and that would concern me a little bit because I don't think either one of those guys are very good. So,
man, this is going to be. Pat says they're not going to the portal for a starter; they're going for depth. But why? But do you even? What is the point of that, though? If you're not even trying to find a starter, do you really want to mess with bringing another guy in? And why would a guy with one more year of eligibility left come to Notre Dame knowing he's not going to play? I have trouble understanding what is the thought process of that, bringing a guy in that isn't going to play like for one more year of eligibility. That just seems weird to me. Give him the backup role. Like, I don't understand. Anyways,
I agree. Quarterback's too important. Too important. You know what I mean? It's not like safety or something, or you got to bring in a depth piece. Just, you know what I mean? Like, quarterback is too important. You get the best guy you can.
Man.
And if he's not the best guy, who cares? It's a good investment to have a good backup quarterback. So yeah, I agree. It's not like, what, you really think Notre Dame's going to go out and get like a MAC transfer quarterback? No way. They're going to get a legit quarterback if they do go to the portal.
Right. And then Pat's saying, why is it a guy with one more year of eligibility? Is Notre Dame to the point where they're letting sophomores come in that have 3 years left with their credits?
That's confusing.
But like, I don't understand. Are they
in the chat? Like,
are they to the point where they're recruiting guys that are sophomores that could get into Notre Dame and then like do that? Are we to there and I didn't realize it, or what?
No. I think that Freeman has said that they'd be willing to look at people, but Notre Dame at no point has taken transfers in the same way that everybody else is taking transfers.
So Hyde says, how does Carr jump from 4th string to 1st? Angeli's the guy in 2025. I have no idea. I don't know what they're going to do, but you got to be very, very careful about your decisions here, because whatever you do is going to have a big trickle down effect. If you go with Angeli next year as the starter, you better be right, because you're not going to have Carr and Minchie sitting around for another year. Somebody going to leave, at least one. If you're doing this, you got to pick right. And if you pick Angeli, you got to be right, because of the trickle down effect. You can't mess this up.
I was going to say, though, that, I mean, what do you think of that commentary, though? I mean, if this guy is truly the starting quarterback for next year, and they really believe that he's the second best quarterback on the team right now, then wouldn't you say it's coaching malpractice that he's been working with the 4 team? And I don't care about, by the way, people talk about this split practice stuff. It's like, I get it, split practice, the coaches can go back and see the film and stuff like that. But when you're a rookie quarterback, you want Gino Guidugli working with you a lot, and I seriously doubt Gino Guidugli spending, most of his time at the 4th team, practice. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's probably some like or something like that. So yeah, so I just think it's interesting that that's happening, and I don't believe that, or I shouldn't say I don't believe. I'm not sure what the heck's going on with CJ Carr, and I use Julian Payne as an example of someone who's highly touted, came in, looked awesome, and he's moving up the depth chart. Why isn't CJ Carr moving up the depth chart? So yeah,
it's interesting. All right, Andrew, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yep.
See ya.
Hyde says the staff has picked. They have picked Steve as the number 2. Well, they could pick all they want. They need to be right. They could pick whatever they're picking, but they need to be right about it. So, I'm not doubting who they picked as the number 2. I'm just saying you better be right about your longer-term plan. A lot of people love Angeli. A lot of people think he's a one-read guy and a check-down guy, and he's less mobile than the other guys. What is the reality of this? You got to pick right. You got to pick right. Pat, what's going on? 419, you're coming up. You've been waiting a long time. 4802, what's going on?
Well, I agree with you on the Tim Hyde comment. It doesn't matter if he's a 4th string right now. Joe Montana was the 5th string, and then he became the starting quarterback after an injury. Just putting a kid on the depth chart, I really think it's more about making sure Angeli and Minchie don't transfer because, well, I don't think they can now, but the depth chart was listed so they didn't transfer because he needed the depth. What I'm worried about is next year, Carr ascends to be the number one guy because he proves he's the number one guy after a full season of practice. And Jelly and Minchie both transfer. And then if you don't get Deuce Knight, you are in, and you get a lower quality quarterback if you get one at all, which would be a nightmare scenario. Then have the problem of you have two scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. One's a true sophomore, the other's a true freshman with no playing experience. You have to go find somebody. You're going to have to get somebody to come in there. So there's a lot of issues with the quarterback room going out of next year, but I don't think it's you're going to go out there and look for another starter to the transfer portal. And now to the point of Andrew is making, Notre Dame has taken transfers before that were freshmen and sophomores. There's two academic requirements that Notre Dame has. The first academic requirement is calculus. You have to take calculus, and you can't just take calculus at Florida State because they don't care about what Florida State calculus is. And then the second part, so that's why they got the kid from USC came here. Armar Carlisle transferred in. You had a kid from Navy, and you had a kid from Northwestern. They transferred as young kids, as freshmen, because Notre Dame wants the degree that you earn from them to be earned at Notre Dame, which is why it was such a huge deal that they accepted Leonard. I get he comes from Duke, but his credit hours were not earned at Notre Dame. So the degree he's getting was earned at Duke in their eyes. So they are changing. That is the perfect sign of they are changing their transfer requirements for underclassmen. The fact that they would take a guy that's been at another school for 3 years that didn't achieve his degree is huge. I'm not saying that they're going to do it like LSU has done it or USC has done it when they hire a new coach and they get 24 kids to come in, or like Texas A&M did it this year. It's never going to be like that. But they are changing it. So I have no doubt that they can go and find somebody and say, hey, look, you were already accepted. We figured out you can get into the school during the transfer portal. You have got so many requirements in, and maybe you could take the calculus over the summer or something. I can see them doing that, and then aligning with this new academic association that puts them on even par with the Big Ten schools and a lot of schools across the country, makes it even easier for them to accept transfers from other institutions. And the fact that people are refusing to see this or acknowledge this, it is not going to be like these other teams do it. But Notre Dame is taking steps to make it easier. That is my point with the transfer portal. They are doing things I've never seen them do before. So I'm not going to say they're not willing to go and get that kid. If Marcus Freeman really puts
but man, the easier path would be to maintain the quarterback you have in the 25 class, and we all keep it moving. But it doesn't look like that. Totally it just doesn't look like that's in the cards.
I totally agree, and the fact that Deuce hasn't done what everyone said he was going to do makes me think that they're working hard on him, and they're not going to stop working hard on him, and that makes this Texas A&M game all the more important. And shout out to Domer 88. He was making the same. He was making the same points that I was making a couple of weeks ago with you. That this is about championships. This is year 3. We have a standard. We have an expectation. Notre Dame needs to go and win this football game. All right, but John, I want to touch on the offensive line aspect of it. Do you think that Marcus Freeman is kicking himself for not giving in to Blake Fisher?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good answer because Blake Fisher had certain demands if he was going to, but the demands were more about the bowl game, Pat, not a guarantee about the future. What I understood is the discussion was about playing in the bowl game. I don't know if that necessarily tied to staying another year.
Yeah, but if you don't meet the demands for the bowl game, you're definitely not going to get him to come back for another season.
Yeah.
But I think Blake Fisher made a mistake. I think Blake Fisher could have been a first-round pick if he stayed. And then he would have slid back over to the left tackle position, and this whole conversation wouldn't be there. So I do think that, at the time, I agree. I don't like how Blake Fisher handled the situation himself, but I think Notre Dame made a mistake by poo-pooing this, thinking, well, we got Jagasaw. Jagasaw's being projected as a guard now anyway, so you're going to be playing him in the wrong position. Maybe they're looking to slide him inside once Knapp came up. But now I worry about Knapp. Look, remember Sam Young? Remember what happened to Sam Young? He had to step on the field day one.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the coaching wasn't that great on that roster. Sam Young was a 4-year starter and never really made much of an impression because he got blown up his first 2 years. And then he played decent his next 2 years, decent enough to get him into the NFL. And that's what I worry about when he puts this freshman out there. Joe Alt didn't come out there day one. Joe Alt had half a season. They saw what was coming.
Man, there's we got a lot of questions and no easy answers, Pat. Why don't you go play golf? Don't worry about this. Just go golf.
Hold on. Gilmore said mistake. He went round 2. Yeah, he went round 2. He might have been able to be top 10, top 5 like Joe Alt was if he came back another year. You're talking about millions and millions of guaranteed money, which if he did come back, he was probably
all right.
Millions in NIL.
Okay, now what about the pushback of somebody rolls up on your ankle, you lose an ACL, then you're not second round, you're no round. Like, is that a debate? You know, do you have to think about that too?
Right, fine. But they also do the same thing that they did for Jalen Smith. The university buys these kids that come back. They buy them those insurance policies. Jalen Smith got paid a handful of cash when his knee blew out. He didn't go in the first round, and then he went in the second round, and then he got his bag of money from the Cowboys then, and then started playing terrible football.
Man, go golf, Pat. Don't let us stress you out. Go get to the golf course, and then
I'm not stressed. I was having fun today, and can you please just let me come fix your internet?
Please. What do we need to do? Run a physical wire, drill a hole through upstairs, and run it downstairs?
It's a Cat 8 cable. I already have them. I could run it. Easy peasy. You'll be done. None of this will ever happen again.
But through the floor in the living room, then we have to run it along the ceiling tiles and then down all the way into my little man cave. Is that what we're doing? We can do it.
Yeah, it's easy. John, I have a 4,000 square foot house, but it's all lath and plaster. So I can't just have Wi-Fi. I had to run this Eero system, and I had to run wires all over my house because I wanted everything to be hardwired.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is not strong enough. And so I got boosters all over my house, and it is perfect and is awesome. And I had never had any internet issues anywhere in the house, even in the basement.
Well, then you need to come hook a brother up. I'll feed you some food. We'll have some Miller Lights, and then you could hook it up.
I'm going to come hook a brother up. John, you never invited me to your house.
I mean, come on. You ain't going to drive an hour, just like I don't want to drive an hour to golf with you. I'm not going to make you drive another hour to come hang out with me. I drive out to Indiana to see PJ. Why wouldn't I drive an hour to see you? Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Somebody says John's getting drilled this weekend. Yeah, in a different kind of way. Drill a hole through the floor in the ceiling and run a wire through. All right, get to the golf course.
Well,
I'll see you out there Sunday. Is what?
First thing, John's got to carry my bag on Sunday.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to caddy for you. And then if we go well, then we'll discuss the internet. All right. Go practice and win your match.
All right, brother.
All right.
Hey, good session this morning on the range. We'll see if the 3-wood's working on the course.
All right. We'll see. See ya. Oh man, it just feels like everybody's worked up. 419, and then I got a 707. It's been a while. I want to talk to you. 419, what's going on?
Hey, John, how you doing? It's been a long time.
I don't know. I'm a little wound tight. It's good to talk to you. Looks like it's been since April, so it has been a while. What are your thoughts here? Any thoughts on this O-line thing? Are we taking this? Are we worrying too much? Are we worrying the accurate amount? What's the deal?
I mean, I think there's reason to worry. I think there's some overreaction, but there is reason to worry. O-line's real young. I think I saw the projected first team going into A&M. The most experience is a redshirt sophomore, which I don't know the last time that happened for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I want to repeat my position on this. I do not expect Notre Dame's O-line to be perfect. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be world beaters. I just need you to be good enough to let this offense do what it needs to do to win the game against A&M. From there, you will have time to gel and develop and ease into this. But it is just it's just kind of a crisis point where you got to be good enough to survive week one, and then we'll be able to settle in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they got to be just good enough. But hey, I wanted to ask you something and kind of piggyback off a couple callers ago. So, when it comes to you saying you can't have neither the recruiting or the big wins on the field. Do you think once we get one once we get one big win, the recruits all fall in line? Those kind of coincide with each other. We need to get one before.
Man, it's really, really the ultimate football chicken and the egg. Do you know how many hours I spend in a week thinking about this problem? You can go one way or the other. Get more out of the group you have and win some elite big moment games that attracts more recruits. But you got to find a way to get more out of the group you already have and win some big games and it attracts the elite recruits. Or do it the other way, where you land the elite recruits and then they are the ones that change it on the field. And then there's a cycle and they feed it. What you can't do is be in the middle. You cannot be in the middle where you're not recruiting elitely, but you're also not winning the biggest games on your schedule. That means you're right in the middle, spinning your wheels and nowhere land. 9-3, 10-2, whatever, but you're not elite, but you're not recruiting it. That's middle land where I don't want to be. You cannot be in the middle if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, like I've stated this many times that I've called on here. I don't know, and I can't. That couple calls ago, he was right. When did the fan base start accepting 10-2? I have no clue.
Here's what I believe. I think you just had such a long time removed since Notre Dame was truly elite. When you do that and you start crossing generations, like I'll be 40 in a couple months. I am the first generation that really can't remember Notre Dame being elite. When you start doing that, it's dangerous because then people grow up never seeing Notre Dame be elite, and it lowers what's in your mind because you can't even comprehend Notre Dame being elite is the standard because you've never seen it. You've never seen it with your own eyes, and remember what it's like for Notre Dame to be truly elite, and it kind of lowers the bar. Then when you go through Weiss and you go through Ty and you go through Davey and all that, then see, my dad, always Irish senior, says the problem is 80% of Notre Dame's fan base has never seen great Notre Dame football. When you don't see it for forever, then the bar gets lowered. And then you were really, really bad. And then it makes what Kelly did seem great because he's just better than not awful, but not elite. It's all a big mental trap.
For me, like, you know this, John, I'm 20, so of course I've never seen anything. My dad was 8 years old last time Notre Dame won a national championship. He was 13 last time they won a big game against Florida State.
Yep.
But just hearing him telling me about some of those games that he watched, it's like, when you see these, when you hear those stories, how do you lower your bar of expectation and not want to see that for yourself?
Yeah, it's tough.
Experience that.
It's tough. Dude, my dad tells me all the time. He said the danger Notre Dame is in right now is when you get to a whole generation who could live and die without knowing what it's like for the team to be elite. That is the danger zone. And that is the era that I'm in, being 40, where I was too young to remember 88 and really 93. And everything since then in my cognizant mind has been not good enough. That's the danger zone. When you don't have a connective tissue to elite for one generation, that's where you risk losing it all. And that's my generation, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just don't understand where they lower the bar, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. So, A&M, how confident are you feeling?
I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win that football game. I cannot settle on a final score, but I just got to think Notre Dame. I'm going to have to submit a score for Sports Illustrated. I have no idea where I'm going to go there with the over-under or what I think the actual score will be, but I got to think Notre Dame finds a way to grind this out, and I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think they find a way to get this done. There's no way. I'm not picking against Notre Dame in this spot, but I don't have confidence it's going to be easy. I just think maybe they find a way and the defense leads the day.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. If Notre Dame's going to win this, it's going to be the defense. And if I had to give you a score prediction right now, I would say 20-17. something like that.
Oh,
Because
man.
our line and their D line.
Oh, I'm having anxiety.
not-
Just
it's
that's
not
so
gonna be an
close
offensive.
already. That's such a close score prediction. I'm already having anxiety about it. Like I don't know, man. And again, all this worry about the Notre Dame offense. That's why I need that defense we feel great about to deliver. That is your time to deliver.
Yeah, with their defensive line and our offensive line, I think we'll be just good enough, like you've been saying.
That's what I
we to
need.
be.
I just need you to be good enough week
But-
1, man. I'm not getting too picky on this one. Be good enough to survive that moment. Then everybody's blood pressure will calm down. And then you get into Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami, and all that. You can settle in a little bit. John, what if we win by 20? Then what? Then I'm going to be really good for once. I hope to be in that position on the postgame show. I'm going to be in a good mood for once. That's what'll happen.
If I'm not almost having a heart attack in the fourth quarter, I am extremely happy. I will say that if we win by 20.
Seriously. Yeah, like I'm going to be in a really, really good mood. That's what's going to happen if we win by 20. So I don't know, man. I have certain things I'm very confident about in this team and other things that I'm not confident in. And I'm going to worry about them till I see that it's okay. Starts with the O-line.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. And well, I feel like this team, it could be special. I think with this roster, we should be able to make, or we should be able to earn a home game in the playoffs. Should be able to win that and possibly, not guaranteed, but possibly win the second round with this team.
The key to all of that is shooting for the number 5 seed is the key to all that, because you get the home game, you get the lowest rated seed, probably the group of 5. And then also if you advance to the next round, you're going to avoid the top SEC and Big Ten schools. In that, you probably want to do that too. So that is the key. And to do that, 11-1, 12-0.
Yeah, to get to 5, I think we're going to have to be 12-0. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, man, that's going to be tough.
If there's an 11-1 or 12-1, let's say whoever loses the SEC championship is 12-1 or 11-2 or whatever, you think they won't give them the 5 seed over an 11-1 Notre Dame?
Yep. Again, it's a
like
really good question. That is going to be one of the biggest early experiments of the expanded playoff era, is how they're going to navigate that seeding, what they're going to value. Do you get a 9-3 SEC team ranked ahead of an 11-1 Notre Dame because they like who they played more? Like, we are really going to figure a lot of that out. And so it's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, that's going to be, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
Which I think we could win a second round game if we get the 6, because then we'd be either playing the Big 12 or ACC winner, because those will be the bottom.
Yep.
SEC and Big Ten is going to have 1 and 2. We know that.
Yep, that's exactly where my mind's at too. So that, I think in the years, if Notre Dame's ever going to make a true run at this or be a real contender at it, they're going to have one of those earlier seeds that allows them the path we just talked about. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, getting an 8 or 9
it's tough.
or getting to a point where we don't have a home playoff game, it'd be very rough.
Yeah, that's a rough start. Yeah. That's a rough start on the road. Anything else, my friend? Thanks for giving me a call. It's been a while. Thank you.
I've got some running to do, so I'm going to get off here.
Hey, thank you.
Just to let you know, I will be at Miami of Ohio.
Oh, beautiful. Come by the team. Information about that when it gets closer. And then make sure you start calling on the post-game shows after these games in a few weeks, okay?
All right. Sounds good, John.
Have a good one, buddy. Thanks for waiting. I know I made you wait a while. Adam Bauer says, John, I love your articles on SI. I really, really appreciate that, you guys. The early numbers, we get our metrics on how the website is doing and the traction on the articles. We're really starting to find our rhythm with everybody writing and doing the stuff they're good at and best at, putting it on the mix in the website, getting it, out, and all the, just getting it spread out where it needs to and hitting the different algorithms and getting all of the syndication and getting all that out. Really appreciate everybody that does read the articles, and I've had a really good time writing them. Challenges my brain in a different way to do writing than yelling on the internet. And it's really fun for me to do. So thank you if you guys are reading those. Notre Dame wine and cheese, $2 holler. How do we feel? How do we feel about the 5 seed at the G5 as its own college football playoff? I don't know. You would still feel good about the 5 because you're going to get the lowest seed, whoever it is. So if it isn't the G5, you're going to get the lowest seed, whoever it is. You got to feel better about that than going to Georgia week 1 or something, right? 707, what's going on? It's been a while. And then we'll go back to 480 after that and 347. 707, what do you make of this mess we're talking about?
Hey, Johnny.
Oh, man.
Hey.
What's your stress level like?
Well, I'll say this. Cheer, cheer for old Notre Dame.
I like
Wake
it.
up, the echoes calling her name. Send a volley cheer on high. Shake down the thunder from the sky. What though the odds be great or small? Old Notre Dame will win overall. While our something tears come falling onward to victory.
What's gotten
Yeah.
into you? What's gotten into you this morning? What are you do? What are we doing?
I'm talking 2 weeks till Notre Dame football, man. I'm getting there.
Oh, baby. Is that you getting cranked up that we're turning up the
I'm-
tunes and we're getting wired?
I'm looking at the walls and they're looking at me funny and I'm ready to hit them.
Yeah. You looking at me or am I looking at you? Okay.
The walls. I'm saying I'm looking at the wall
Oh, man.
and it's making me a little angry.
Hey,
Ready.
Are we overdoing this O-line thing? Tell me. You sit there and observe a lot of this, and are we overdoing it a little? Am I over worrying a little bit?
Yeah, it's, you're going to have concerns everywhere. But I had a lot of disagreements with Gilmore. I mean,
Who
for him
doesn't?
to say that-
Take a number.
I know. He's saying we need like 5 offensive linemen a year, and it's malpractice on our quarterback at a 4th string, this kid Carr. It's like, Notre Dame could draft or recruit 20 offensive linemen if they wanted to. It's not a matter of you have to get 4 and 5. It's like they can get as many as they want, but Freeman's going after much better players, and it doesn't mean you fill a roster spot to get 5. If you're getting 4 a year and it's the quality that we're bringing in, and for a while there, I think we've been soft. Like what everyone's saying about O-line U is bullshit. We have been soft since Kelly. And we get the occasional guys that are very good, but that's expected. That's a Notre Dame thing. You get guys that are very good. So, getting 5 guys or 4 guys, I'm happy if we're getting 4, if it's the 4 that we're Augustine and Black and, we're getting Streebig or whatever. We're getting some quality kids that are, if we only get 3 that are quality like that, I'm okay with that too. But that's my thing for offensive line. The thing that would really concern me is I think on our current 2025 class, we only have 1 defensive line guy. I think it's like Stud still or something, but it's only 1 kid. But I think he's a 4-star, but it's only 1. So if you have concerns, that's where you should be looking to beef up a little bit more on the numbers.
Yeah, and I admit, I wouldn't feel as much anxiety about this if you weren't opening up with this particular opponent. And it's just the worst possible situation for you to lose a left tackle in this environment when that's their strength and protecting the quarterback is the key to this game and everything. Like, it's just kind of a bad combination of having this happen in who the first game is. You just got to get through it, man. You got to get through it. And if you go with the young guy, I'm all for it. I'll support him. God bless you. Get that developmental path going early. Get it going.
Yeah. I'm hoping that I'm glad that they recognize that Baker isn't the answer. And I think Coogan is the other guy I'm not real thrilled about. So if they want to start plugging in the younger kids, I'm all for it.
No, listen, though. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe other people are sure. I'm not sure that this means they are for sure not starting Tosh Baker at tackle. Maybe they were just trying to see what the backup needed to be if they need to go there. What I am not sold that this is what they're doing with the number one O-line, and I'm not sold on that. My only point is it shows you how uncomfortable they are with the original plan that you're seeing this as much as they are. Those are two different things. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I know that this indicates they're not comfortable. That's my point.
Heck, who is? I mean, when you lose the best offensive lineman that was going to be put at left tackle for the year, I mean, that's a problem. And then you got Howard Cross that comes up lame. It's like your best offensive lineman and your best defensive lineman both are a little bit, well, one's out and one's going to be shaky for the game. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks away. So he needs that practice. And if they're going to sit him out to make sure his injury, a hamstring, I think it is, or something like that, I mean, that's a terrible thing, you know. And then Texas A&M is a damn good team, you know. Like I'm not sure about their offensive line, but I know that they have that quarterback Waitman or something like that. He's good. I've watched him play. In fact, I watched the A&M versus LSU game last year on tape recently, and A&M played them very tightly. It was a close game for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden, Jaden Daniels started running his brains out, and that wasn't anything to do with Denbrock calling it. It was him recognizing the field and seeing a path. Like, that kid made Denbrock a very highly paid offensive coordinator. It's still out for me on Denbrock. I don't know. And if he loses to A&M, I think they're going to want his head. Wait till you hear the complaints about Denbrock if they lose it.
Oh man, it's all going to depend on what it looks like too. Like, that's the big thing. I've heard people say, what happens if Notre Dame loses? I need to see what that looks like. I want to see what the problems are and exactly why. Like, I have a hard time believing the defense plays terribly. I would think it would be more likely to be a couple big turnovers, you know, by the offense that turn into points. Like, something to where the defense, it doesn't even matter if they're good. It can't really keep us in the game. So it would be a lot of offensive problems, I suspect. Let's just hope we avoid this issue.
Yeah. And I also think they know what they're doing quarterback-wise, too, where, you know, what's his name was saying that, you know, malpractice by having him fourth string. I mean, even your friend Pat, you know, called him out on that because this kid hasn't even seen alive in a uniform one play yet in the college level. You know, he's a freshman that's just coming. He started back in January, but he hasn't seen anything yet. So it's okay that he's fourth string. You know, like, if you even want to call it him, I don't even think Notre Dame probably calls it that. What I think they're doing is by him practicing, you know, he's probably going to wind up being the kid that gets all the what do you call it? Scouting. He'll be on the scouting team quarterback, so he'll have to learn all the plays of the other team. They want him to get those reps, and I don't blame him for that. You know, at least he won't be sitting on the sideline and watching the guy taking those scouting reps. You know, I'd rather see him get some football in him, going against Notre Dame's first team defense and trying to, you know, do something with it with the scouting team's, you know, gameplay. So I'm happy with the way things are right now because not only that, you have a kid Grubbs coming in behind that's rated even higher than Deuce Knight, you know. So the quarterback thing is really a non-issue. I mean, you know, you had Angeli looking very good in that bowl game. He had no left tackle and no right tackle in that game. He had no running back, you know, their number one running back sat out. So he wound up showing pretty good numbers and a new offensive line. The problem is Jagasaw. You know, we're not going to have him now. So that's going to be a very big concern is what is going to be this fill-in kind of a offensive line. And then Howard Cross has to be healthy for Notre Dame's defense to really you know, click like we think that they're going to do.
And
so,
dude, I don't know what the deal is with that. I heard about a little foot situation or something, and then I heard that he was kind of okay, and they were making it seem like not a big deal. I don't know the realities of that, but I don't want to start worrying about that too.
Yeah, I think he'll play. I mean,
Well,
a
he
gamer,
better
so
play. What do
he'll
you mean
be-
you think he'll play? I'm not hearing anything that makes me think that's even in question. You think he'll play? What do you
Well,
mean?
Well, if he's got
Oh,
a hamstring,
my
those things
God.
tend to stick with you. And I thought I heard that. But anyway, I think the quarterback situation is going to be fine. I'm kind of coming around to Riley Leonard being the guy. It sounds, you're hearing all the right things. Of course, we heard the same thing with Hartman. But I think he does present a different thing for the defenses to think about with his running ability.
Yeah, I
And
think
if
that's a
City
big
go
deal.
down just the way
That's a big deal.
the way
The dual
Buckner went down.
threat. That's a big deal. You got to make it. A defense automatically has to prepare for you differently and respect you in a different way when you have a dual threat guy. I like the versatility that starts you out with in a better spot.
Yeah, and he's playing now for an NFL look, scouts. So he's going to be trying his very best. So I mean, if he runs hard and goes down, if we have Angeli and Minchie behind him, I'm still okay with that. I loved what I saw from Minchie in that spring game.
Yeah,
and Angeli proved to me in that bowl game. So, and he looked pretty good in that spring game too. But I was more impressed with what Minchie did. So I'm okay with them being number 2 and number 3. I just love that the quarterback Gaduli is really keeping them all together because there's next year might be a different thing. We might see Minchie leave or Angeli leave, but then we'll still have possibly Deuce Knight, CJ Carr, and this kid Grubbs coming in. So I don't feel any problems at all with what we're doing recruiting quarterbacks. All of a sudden we have really good quarterbacks that we're recruiting and bringing them in. So if we don't get Minchie or if we don't get Deuce Knight, that's okay because we have CJ Carr and this kid Grubbs behind him. So we can lose out on a 5-star as long as we have these kids that a kid ranked higher than him behind him. I'm okay with that. Let's see what we got, with him. If we lose him, we lose him because that's going to be him. If he's going to leave, he's going to leave. There's really nothing you can do about this day and age of NIL and transfers. I mean, there's really and decommits. I mean, it's such a chaotic thing now that people are just rolling with what's going to happen today, what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's all you can do. Kids are 17 years old.
I know.
What are you going to?
It's so frustrating though, dude. It's so frustrating to be almost 40 years old and let my emotions range based on what a 17 or 18-year-old decides. But it's hard not to when it's like Deuce Knight and what that would mess up and everything. It's really hard for me to be like, dude, you're almost 40. Grow up. But I really am impact. My mood really is impacted by it, though. I'm not going to lie. It truly is. It is. I'm not proud of it, but it is.
I'm going to end you on one last thing here. This idea that Pat brought up and so many people seem to think is that this year 3 thing is so important. Guess what? Notre Dame won 66, 73, 77, and 88. So the last time a year 3 thing meant anything was 1988. So get over this idea of year 3. It's been 35 years since year 3.
Well, wait. But Pat's argument would be that proves the 3-year thing is an ongoing thing, but we've been getting the wrong answers every 3 years, right? He would argue the 3-year thing's still going, but everyone's been a failure since 88. So the 3-year test, but that's the point of the 3-year test is that we've been failing it all the time since the 80s.
Well, that's if you want to go with that, amen.
Oh man,
3 years 35 years ago meant something. It may, but with the coaches in the in between, not so much. So
I'm not telling you,
crucify Freeman if he doesn't win it all. See, I see us getting better. First, we were 10-4, right, or 9-4. What were we? 9-4. Now, last year we were 10-3. This is year 3. If we go 11-2 or even 10-2 in the regular season, that's a possibility that we can, this idea that this group of 5, a team like Liberty getting in over a 10-2 Notre Dame, I don't buy it. Even a Michigan at 9-3, let's say, if they were to not get in because Liberty is undefeated as a group of 5. I mean, that's ridiculous, you know.
But see,
And then
but
you're
I
given
think that, but wait, don't they get in automatically? That group of 5 is guaranteed a spot. So it's like, that's not like an option, but it's like, if they're going to do that, who does it boot out? Like a 3-loss SEC team or a 10-2 Notre Dame team? Does it depend who they play? I got a lot of unanswered questions.
I know. And all of a sudden it's this bogus, you know, they make these stipulations, you know, instead of it just being the top 12 teams, now all of a sudden the conference champ has to be a guarantee. A group of 5 has to be a guarantee.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you're a team like, you know, let's say LSU with 9-3, for example, or Michigan at 9-3, or Auburn at 9-3, and then you're letting in Liberty, and you're letting in you know, a Big 12 school that, you know, is like Oklahoma State at 9-3 wins their championship. They're guaranteed. You know, it's like, I'm still not thrilled with the way it is. I'm just glad that we do have a playoff and it's 12 teams, because you have to just take your chances that Notre Dame's going to make it in there. And you know, if everyone's going to mock out their schedule, well, guess what? If they have to win it, let's say they're ranked number 5. It could be number 12, and then they'd have to play 5. So let's say they're number 5 at the end of this year. They'll have to go through. The next one is going to be the number 1 team in the country, right? Because they'll be, instead of the 4, you know, the 4 is going to get the bye, but the 5 is going to wind up being the worst record. No, I guess it would be 8 plays number 1, 7 plays 2, 6 plays 3, and 5 plays 4. So Notre Dame at 5 would have to play the number 4 team, and then they'd have to play the number 1 team, or else the winner of the 2 and 3 team, and then go for the championship of who's ever left from all that. So Notre Dame would have to really prove a lot to win it all this year.
They're going to have to earn it. Going to have to earn it the hard way. Yeah, winning. Dude, think about this. Think about this. We haven't won a major bowl game in 30 years. But even on the high end, I'm supposed to believe we're going to win 4 in a row in about a 6-week span when we haven't won 1 in 30 years. Like, it's a tall task. Like, a boy can dream, but literally think of it. We haven't won 1 in 30 years, but we expect us to win 4 in about 6 weeks in a row. All right. I want it to happen, but it's a tough ask given our recent history. A lot of things have to change.
Yeah, a lot of things have to go perfectly.
Yeah, a lot of things have to change.
Pretty much, they have to pretty much figure on wanting to play perfectly. You know, like, just no exceptions. You have to play perfectly.
Yeah, it's
so
man,
that's where it's going to be.
It's going to be interesting. Year, but I really appreciate you calling, man. I appreciate you calling. You're good for my stress level. Just the tone in your voice calms me down. Thank you.
You got it, bud. God bless everybody. Let's go Notre Dame.
I appreciate it. Work on that singing voice next time you call, buddy. I like it. I like it. I like it. Give me a call from the toilet singing next time. Bring up the old memories, all right? Nobody's forgotten that, man. Nobody's forgotten that. People bring it up all the time when he called. 480. You're going to wrap up the show. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, John? How you doing, man?
I don't know. I'm ready for football. I need answers to all these questions. I got all questions and no answers. What do you make of all this?
Well, I've been listening to all the callers, and there are valid points on both sides. I've been kind of thinking through everything that everybody's saying. And, you know, my thoughts are, when it comes to Freeman, you know, one thing that, I don't know if you saw the interview with Pete Pavakwa, but he had, and they asked him, like, I mean, I guess basically what were some of his importance of, you know, being the athletic director at Notre Dame. And he clearly said that we must win a national championship in football. Like, that's his number one thing. And so my thing is, when I'm looking at Freeman, and I'm a Freeman guy, man, all the way. But at the same time, you know, this is not Jack, okay? This is Pete now. It's Pete's show. And he's going to have to show up. And I'm sure that Freeman knows that too. He doesn't have the grace with Jack that he has with Pete. And if he doesn't perform, then I'm assuming that Pete is going to basically put the pressure on him. Like, hey, It's either you bring in the results on the field or, you out of here. I mean, that's because here's the thing, man. Like, it's just like if I worked for a company and I was hired under a certain boss, which actually happened to me once before, and then a new boss comes in, there might be certain things that this boss is looking for, and I might not present that. And so then they say, we're going to look somewhere else. And then they let me go. And so this is the same ordeal with Freeman, and
So let me
field,
let me ask you this. If Bavak was, I recall the interview you're talking about. If Bavak was that serious about football being a lead and that's that important to him, what are the obligations upon him to help make that more feasible? Meaning carving more out for NIL, making it more reasonable for transfers to get in, making it more academically feasible to open the recruiting net a little bit. Like, if we're going to do this, it can't all just be Bavakwa telling Freeman, I need results and I need this and that. It's also, I need Bavakwa within Notre Dame's, guidelines and moral framework and whatever in their value system. I also need that guy to do everything he could do to help Freeman in this regard, right? Works both ways.
I agree. I agree. It works both ways, and I mean, look at all that we talked about in the offseason. It appears that he is doing that, from what we have heard in terms of, paying up the money to get Denbrock and the NIL stuff that's been paid out for these portal players. Which, I mean, I think that we did a great job in the offseason with the acquisition, adding in, these players, but all that has to come through the administration. And so, and Pete is behind it, I'm sure. And then there's other things in which, I'm sure Pete was behind in terms of just some of the, the fixes around the university, the rebuilding of the Goog and other avenues within the university. So I think I've said this to you once before, when we first started talking about Pete coming in and everything, and I said, the conversation I see happening is Pete is going to come in and say, okay, what can I do to help you succeed? What can I do to help you become the best football coach that you possibly can become? And I believe that in this offseason, I feel he has basically kind of shown that, maybe not all the way he wants to, in terms of his entire turnover, being the new athletic director, but I feel like just in this offseason, it's shown me at least that he's willing to do whatever it takes to help Freeman to become successful on the field. But now I'm sure Pete's response is, okay, I need something. I need wins. I need results on the field.
Yeah.
And we can't have coaching malpractices on the field of 10 men on the field and, like Domer guy said, not calling timeouts before halftime when we can put in the extra touchdown instead of being conservative. He was doing that, a couple of games, but then he kind of got away from that. And I don't know what was the reason for that. But anyways.
So how much pressure do you think is on Freeman here in this year 3 situation? Kind of a pivotal turning point of his.
I think a lot of pressure's on him, John, because a lot is on him because here's the thing. And everybody's keep rehearsing the same ordeal. It's year 3, game 1 versus year 1, game 1.
Yep.
You're going down to Texas A&M, and I'm telling you, I've been watching, just like previous callers said, I watched a couple of games. The LSU game with Texas A&M, I actually watched it a couple of nights ago, and he's right. I remember watching the game live, and they were like on the verge of possibly losing the game. And it had nothing to do with, I don't think, Mike Denbrock's offense that really saved them. It was the legs of Jalen. We're going to have to really rely on Riley Leonard really exploiting the defensive line by using his legs that can, break down their defense. Otherwise, I don't know if he's able to just sit in the pocket and just pick them off like that based upon what we're hearing about our O-line situation. So it's going to take a committee, an effort of not only, the O-line, at least just being stable. They don't have to be dominant, but they have to be able to give him at least a few seconds or more, if not to get through, his progressions, to be able to see what's out there without having to immediately think about just taking off or, folding up because he's getting too much pressure put on him. That's what it's going to come down to for Riley Leonard and his offense if we have any chance of really getting through this first game. Because what we're also not considering, I don't know what kind of things they're inputting in practice, but you're going down to a crazy 105,000 whatever crowd, Rockets environment. This line has to be able to get the signals down and all that, and to hear that they're switching guys in and out. And we don't know, like you said, it could be that they could be just showing us, like, oh, we're trying, when they really already know who they really want. They could just be trying to feed that to us just to keep us.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know.
And what have you.
I don't know.
We really don't know. We're not going to know until the week of.
Yeah.
We really have a solidified understanding of who's going to be out there. But in the event of it all, this is still a fairly new line that has to be able to get their cohesion together when you're on the road, when it's going to be loud. And that's one of the things that I'm really I'm in between, I'm saying, in terms of how we're going to handle this environment, because it seemed like the first year when Freeman was coaching, the team, we did a fairly decent job of winning some games on the road, even though it wasn't like, dominant per se. We went into Syracuse and beat them, which was a ranked team. We beat North Carolina, which at that time, Greg May was a highly touted quarterback, and our defense just shut him down, and our offense started really clicking. And I'm going to go back to last year when we went to NC State, and you remember how raucous that environment was and how basically, the pressure was put on Hartman because our O-line wasn't holding up. And it just took one play that really opened up everything for that offense, and it gave Hartman confidence to be able to produce, and other players on the road when, we had the lightning delay and all that, and they had to come back out and it was raining and everything else. And I just feel like this is not going to be any different. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be a raucous environment. It's going to be close. There's going to be a halftime. It could be tied. They could be beat by 3 or by a touchdown. But then I think that in the second half, this is just my prediction, I think by middle of the third quarter is when, this is when the champions rise up. This is when the players that we believe are on this team begin to rise up and take over the game. And this is what we believe about Riley Leonard. Because one thing I can say about Riley Leonard, he's a winner. He's a winner. He's going to find a way to win this game. Number one, because everybody's talking about, well, Mike Elko knows Riley Leonard's tendencies more than Riley Leonard. But I'm like, okay, yeah, but one thing about it, he doesn't know how they're going to use him in this offense. That's the difference. They know how to stop him in a Kevin Johns offense. They don't know how to stop him in how Mike Denbrock will use him.
It's a good point.
And that's the thing I think is going to help maybe have Leonard, having the advantage, knowing defense, knowing the things that he would try to do to stop him in terms of his deficiencies. I think that Mike Denbrock will work around that. And we're going to see a lot of Riley Leonard moving out of the pocket. He won't be stable. I don't see him just, especially in the first game, because we don't really know what this O-line is about.
Yep.
I don't see him just standing in the pocket a lot. He's going to do a lot of scrambling, getting out of the pocket, a lot of motion. A lot of those kind of things are going to be going on, because that's the only way we're going to have a chance to get through the defense, especially this front seven that Texas A&M has.
Wait to see it.
My only thing is like what we've said, like a couple of guys have said earlier, it's about the moment. What is the moment going to look like? And will the coaching staff rise to that occasion? Because one thing I'm going to say is that this is not Duke's talent. This is Texas A&M talent. And they're better than Duke's talent, overall talent, especially on defense. Offensively, I think our defense is elite. And I think our defense is going to be the one that will keep us in the game and maybe even propel us over for the victory. But it's going to be a committee effort. And we I'm going to say this point, I'm going to get off because I know it's been a long show. But we were talking about the recruiting situation. Well, here's my thing. We don't really have a sample size of talent from the wide receiver and the quarterback position that has given these kids confidence that, oh, Notre Dame could take me to the next level. The last draftable quarterback that's remotely been any point of significance was Chase Claypool. And that was in what year? 2020? So the quarterback wise, I mean, the last big quarterback that did anything remotely that was marketable and that was very slim was Brady Quinn. Well, these kids don't know nothing about Brady Quinn like that. We know the ones like that's been around that, saw the white shears and all that stuff. We know what that looked like. But these kids don't know that. Mike Denbrock, he has done well with the quarterbacks he's coached, but he's done that at other teams. And I just think kids want to see a sample size, like on the field result in a Notre Dame uniform, what Mike Denbrock can do with a quarterback or what he can do with a receiver. Because, he did put two guys, two wide receivers in the NFL first round and a quarterback, but he did that at LSU. Same ordeal with Desmond Ritter and Alec Pierce, which plays for the Colts.
Yeah.
But he did that at Cincinnati.
Man.
They want to see it done at Notre Dame.
Woo.
And I believe we're going to see it.
Man.
Because I'm just excited about the talent that is on this team.
Oh,
And
2 weeks. 2 weeks, man. I can't. I need answers. I need to fast forward 2 weeks, man. I'm losing my mind.
I hear you, man. But I'm going to tell you, John, here's my sleeper player that I don't think people are really talking about. The Harrison kid that came from Marshall.
Yeah.
Watch out for that dude, man. He's going to be, I think, the sleeper on this team for that wide receiver core because he was brought in to be our kick or punt returner. But I think he's going to be a secret weapon for that offense too, man. Because it's just too much speed, man.
I hope so.
We hear things about Jaden Greyhouse and all that. I just have to believe, man, that we're going to take a step forward with the wide receiver room, with the quarterback and everything. And I just believe that, once that takes off, man, that the recruiting
I hope you're right.
Be an issue.
I hope you're right. I want all this to play out. I want all this to play out. Anything on the way out, man? Thank you. Good call to end the show. Thank you.
Hey, man, nothing else, man. I'm excited, man. I know we're 2 weeks away, and I'm just really excited to see what this team can do, man. I just think that it's going to come down to the moment. It's going to come down to the moment.
Yeah.
But I believe that we have the talent. We have the talent. Think about this, Don. When we played Georgia in the last two appearances that we played Georgia, 2017, 2019, we had the ball with like 2 minutes left to win the game.
Yep.
But what happened? We didn't have any playmakers. We didn't have any game changers on the team that could take over the game and win the game for us.
You right.
I believe we have that now.
Oh, I like that.
I believe we have that now. And I'm just confident to say that I believe we're gonna. I don't see us not winning any game on this schedule. I believe we can win every game on this schedule. I think we have the talent, man, to be able to do that. Yeah, there are going to be some coaching woes with the O-line, but I feel like Andrew said, we are dismissing also the fact that this coach was a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award, which means he knows what he's looking for in that O-line. And maybe this Knapp kid could be the secret sauce on this O-line to get us through a lot of these games where then he can really start emphasizing, focusing in on some of the intangibles with the O-line to get this gelling together by the time we play Florida State, because I believe, man, we get through A&M, the O-line will be way better. By the time we play.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. You just got to make it. You got to make it by this first game, and then you have time to let everything settle in. Hey, listen, man, really good call. Hit me back before this season, would you? Really good call to end the show.
Will do, man. Will do.
Have a good one. Thank you very much. Hit me up. And then 616, I see you there. We're already 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I have stuff I need to do. Give me a call back another day, 616, maybe tomorrow night on the night show. It's been like literally a year since you called. Hit me back up on the night show. or between 9-11 on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thanks everybody for being here. Sorry about the technical dip. I'm going to have Pat come climb through the ceiling, connect these wires or whatever. We're going to try and go live tomorrow night, keep the Saturday night train going. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for the donations. Have yourselves a good week, and we'll be here tomorrow night. You know where to find me.